Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here on Friday night with us. I'm going to create some beautiful jewelry. Today's project is this glamorous crystal cuff. So we're going to have a really fun time exploring a stitch called Herringbone Stitch. It's an easy stitch that has so much versatility. You can create so many great things, but there's just one simple idea. I'm going to structure class as walking through the stitch, and then I'll explain a little bit about the different ways you can start it, and then we'll work through the project. I have another sample that's almost done. We can switch to show finishing, and that's pretty much it. And then I have some variations I can show you guys at the end. So I'm going to switch to so this camera here, and what you see here is, of course, the one I was just holding up, which is the sample from the handout. And then there's one here that I have for later that I can show you guys these materials as well. And I'll probably start with working with a blue and some red, but let's show you guys the materials first. So I'm going to show the materials I use for this one. These are size 8 seed beads in just a really pretty opaque black, really versatile. And then on the strand wall, these crystals that we've been using for so many of our classes. They're super fun, super versatile, but we only need the small ones. And we realized that for a bracelet this size, you probably need about 3 of these, maybe even like 3.5 or 4. So there are some alternatives, and that led me in the direction of finding some really other, beautiful colorways. So another thing you could do is you can just search the strand wall for individual strands of 4mm crystals. And I found a few when I was walking around looking. I found this really pretty blue color, which would be a nice alternate to the one that's here. I found this black, which is the one I used in this sample. And I also found some lavender, and of course there are lots of other colorways in the bulk strands. So the ones that come with all of these come in a lot of colors. So lots of different options. And of course, all of our beautiful seed bead colors that you can play around with pairing and creating your own combinations. Another alternative you could use if you didn't want to go with the crystals is you could just use some size 6 seed beads. And those work 1-for-1 with what we're doing here with the crystals. So lots of options that you can try. And the thread I'm going to be using today is a Wildfire. I'm using the point 006. And I'm going to use some size 10 beading needles with those. And some scissors. We'll need scissors to cut our thread. And then at the very end, we're going to need to pull in some wire guardians. So just the ones we've been using, in a lot of our classes, these silver, sometimes they're called wire thimbles. And last but not least, you'll need some findings. On the sample, we used Lobster Claw and jump rings from the findings pack. But anything that you like for a clasp will work great for this design. All right, so I'm going to just dive in here. I'm going to get out my size 8 seed beads. And, oh, excuse me.
Danielle.
This red color. Oh, yeah.
Hi, it's Carmi. Just a quick question. Are the beads round or are they a different shape? Are you using rounds?
Yeah, good. It's a really good question. So they're called rondels, which is a little bit flatter. They're rounder shapes, kind of like a donut, almost flattened a little bit like a donut. But when you get down to this small 4mm size, that is a lot less pronounced. So, like for example, if you look at this one, you see clearly that's a rondel where its dimensions are wider than it is tall. But when you come over to the 4mm, it is, if you really look at it, you can tell a little bit wider than it is tall, but it's in the noise at that point. So that's why it's, possible if you wanted to use a round bead in place of this. You can try that. And I do believe that would work. But another cool feature is that they're kind of about the same size as a size 6 seed bead. And so you can get away with, substituting them in. At the end, I'll talk a little bit more about this, but I wanted to show they truly are 1-for-1 if you wanted to use them in a design. They're size 6 seed beads with the 4mm Rondel crystal.
Thanks, Danielle. That's perfect.
Cool. And so what I've got out here on the mat is the size 8 seed beads in our favorite Zoom colors, the turquoise color. And these are 4mm crystals that came from one of these strands in a red color. And I think some of the larger ones have snuck in there. So I'm just going to sort through that as I go. And so for thread, this is one where I am going to show adding thread because at least one time while you're creating your bracelet, you'll probably need to add thread, maybe even 2 times. But I have not made one where I was able to work with a long enough strand that I didn't have to add. And it's better not to try to work with, you know, too much. If you're working with a lot of thread, what's going to happen is you're going to get lots of tangles, and that can be more work than just adding some thread later. So I tend to encourage people to work with a comfortable working length, 60, 70, 80 inches or so. Or if you want to go up from there and you have a design where you can, we're probably leaving enough tail that you could add 10 inches to that here. So just something to think about while you're cutting your thread. Basically, don't worry about your length in a nutshell there. And oh, what I just did there, what I did was I flattened it with some chain nose pliers. I flattened the end of my thread with the pliers so that it's easier to thread my beading needle. And sorry, I didn't introduce that. We do that so much that I just kind of do it without thinking now. All right, so I've got my needle threaded, got my thread cut. And what I'm going to do here is bring on 4 seed beads. So here's 4 size 8 beads. Bring that down. And leave a tail that's long enough to, what we're going to do with this tail later is we're going to add a wire guardian. And a length of about 10 to 12, maybe 15 inches is plenty for that. And once you've got your 4 beads on, come back up through the first 2. And what we're doing here is just a ladder stitch. When you pull through those first 2, it'll make a little square like that. You want to turn and come down through the second, the third and the 4th bead that we added, or that second column. And there's 1 column. So in Herringbone Stitch, every column looks like that. There's 2 next to each other. So whenever I refer to columns, I'm talking about how many sets of 2. This design has 3 columns. So we're going to ladder stitch 6 stacks of 2 together. But it is possible to make them with different numbers of columns and have this design work out, as long as you start with an even count here, an even count of stacks. So you could do 4, you could do just 2, you could go up to 8 if you want. That would use a lot of crystals. But it's, yeah, sky's the limit on that. So feel free to vary your design in any way that you like. So what I'm doing here is just ladder stitching these on. And we do have, if this is something that you're struggling with, is doing the ladder stitch, there's a really good video that we did that shows how to start one of these. And then there's also a herringbone stitch one. And those are up close, you know, videos that were filmed just this, you know, just doing ladder stitch and just doing herringbone. So it can be helpful to look at those if this is a struggle at all. So I've got 4, got 2 more seed beads here, and I'm just coming up through the last 2 that I added. And down through those 2. There's 5, I need just 1 more stack. And coming up through those again. All right, and so what you'll see here is the 6 stacks of 2 beads. And that's the ladder stitched base that we need to start our herringbone rows now. So we're going to make 7 rows of herringbone stitch in this design. Do you feel free to change that up if you feel like, you know, eight is too many? It'll be a total of 8 when we're done, but and we've already done 2, so we're actually only going to do 6 more. Sorry about that. When you get this built, you can start your crystals sooner. You could make this longer. This was all just style here, and it's up to you how many rows you'd like to do. In the pattern, we just have the 8 total, including these 2 rows of ladder. So I'm going to start doing herringbone stitch now. So I've got 2 of the size 8 seed beads on the needle. My thread is exiting from here. And if for some reason you wanted to flip your work, you could do a step up now. I'll show you guys the step up at the end here, but I'm already where I need to be with my tail going here and my working thread coming out of the top. So I'm going to go ahead and start my stitch. And I'll turn and pull that through. And so what'll happen is those 2 beads we just added, they're going to sit right on top of the last 2 stacks that we added in our ladder stitch. And they kind of sit in a shape where they're kind of leaning in towards each other, and that's where the name comes from. They're called herringbone stitch. I think that's where we got the name from. So I'm picking up 2 more. I go down through the next. And again, those should just sit right there. Turn and come up through the next stack here. And just 2 more is all I need. I'm going to go through both. And when we're working the first row, I tend to go through all the beads because the way that they're ladder stitched together, it kind of adds a little security to come down here and come up. But you could just do your step up from this bead if you wanted to. I have a little trick that I like to do when I start my pieces that will make these little beads here on the side. You see how he's kind of leaning a little bit? I like those to be flush. And so I'll do my step up on this side and on this side from those beads. And in this design, the thread is going to show on the side, but it doesn't take away from the beauty of your piece. And the reason I like to do that versus doing one of those herringbone turns is I've noticed on a piece where I've done a turn, it gets kind of like less flowy, and it doesn't, you know, it doesn't bend very nicely. And it also tends to give it a little bit of a side curl. And that's hard to describe until you've seen it. But if you've ever made one of these pieces before and you've done one with those turns, you might see what I mean. It's, it makes it kind of do this a little bit. So, and that could also be just, you know, tension, and you can play with it and see what you like, of course. So this is just the style that I like to do, and maybe you guys like it too. And if not, we can try to demo the turn later. I'm working with a pretty short strand here, and I still got a tangle with my tail. So here we go. All right, so I just brought on another set of beads. I did my step up here, came up through both of those beads, put on 2 new ones, and then I just went down through this one bead here. That is the one we just added, that little set we just added. I went through just the one. I'm gonna find my needle here. There we go. Okay, now we're gonna turn and come up through the one next to it. So just through the next bead up. Two more down just through this one. And then up through this next one here. Okay, 2 more. And now I'm going to do that, that step up, and I'm going to do it a little bit weirdly. I'm going to go down through all 3 of these beads. And again, this is just style. It's optional if you like it. I'm going to come up through these last 3 here. And I'm coming out of this one and turning and coming up through those. And what that's going to do, It's going to make that bead stay flush. And so that's how you get that clean edge at the bottom here. And especially if you're, like, right now I'm purposely working with a contrasting thread color, but if you're working with a thread color that works with your beads, like on, for example, on this one, I did use the green Wildfire that they have at Michael's, and you don't see it. It's just blending right in there. And then of course on this one, you don't see the black thread at all. So just something to think about. And it's also faster, it's easier. All right, so now I've got 4. I'm gonna go a little bit faster, and I'm just gonna add 4 more rows. So here's 2 beads here. I'm just gonna come down through the 1 bead. And then up through the next one. And 2 more beads on the needle, coming down to the next one. And the tail's in the way now. That gets better as you go, but it's definitely getting in my way a little bit. Up through the next bead here. And then 2 more. And now when I do my step up here, I'm just gonna do a regular step. I'm not gonna go down through more than 1 bead. I just went down through just like we did here, just through the next one. And I'm just gonna turn and do my step up. Mostly. Getting a little bit of knots today. I think this is going to be one of those knots that I can pull out. Fingers crossed, right? Yay. It's telling me I need to slow down. Another thing I might do, I'm getting a lot of knots. So I'm working with less thread here and more thread here. I'm going to do something. I'm going to pull this down and fold it over. And I think that might help me, because where I'm getting my knots forming is when I keep doing those long pulls through the beads, and it's getting it's putting a spin on the thread, which is kind of interesting. So there's 2 more beads coming down to the next one. You can see how, this goes pretty fast. There's 1 more. Okay, last one. And I'm just going to do my step up normally, just coming up through the next bead above it. And you can see that thread on the side, but it's still very pretty. It doesn't seem to even stand out to me. So we have got to do 2 more rows if I'm sticking with my pattern from the handout. So I'm going to do 2 more really quick. And here's that last little set. Stepping up through the last bead that I added. Let's do 1 more. And I flip it. So I am right-handed, so I'm holding with my left and I'm flipping it every time I start a new row. Another thing I'm not doing, I know a lot of people doing herringbone stitch will come down through this bead and then go up to the next one before pulling it through. I don't do that, and it takes a little bit more time. It would be a lot quicker to just, I'll show you what I mean, to just kind of go like this and then just come up and keep going. The reason I go through all that, and it's a little bit more work, but the reason I do that is when you're making this stitch, if these guys don't sit flat now, you're going to have more thread here and you're going to end up with those gaps. I know you guys have seen the gaps in like a stitched piece that tend to form. Those happen because this part wasn't tight. And so I'm taking a lot of effort, and I'm going to have to put even a little more effort in when I start playing with the crystals, but it's worth it because that way you will not have those little spaces. And it's just, it's like with knitting and crochet, it's all around tension, and sometimes they just pop into place, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes I do that, and I'll just do that. I'll just come along and pull them. So no extra little thread gaps or thread spaces should be a worry if, you know, that little extra little tip there. So now I'm ready to add crystals. Gonna pick up an
Danielle,
Yeah.
quick question from Carmi. In the instructions, you said 9 rows. Does it matter if you do 8 rows or 9 rows?
Did I? 2, 3. No, it's 9 in the instructions.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. But I just did 8. Well, let's do one more so that we can make sure we get it to look exactly like it does in the instructions. I think I just symmetrically did 8 for some reason. Yeah, no, I kind of just picked a number. I think when I was stitching it, I just went with what I thought looked cute. But you could do more or less. Okay, so there I've got 9 now. There we go. And so we'll add crystals with this row. So I picked up 1 size 8. And this is the 4mm crystal that came off of one of those strands, those that I showed earlier. So it's one of these in red. And same as we were doing before, I'm just going to come down through that next bead. And I'm going to have to help this one more. I'm going to have to make the 8 snuggle down a little bit. And come up to the next bead here. I'm working the wrong way. There we go. Get another 4, another 8 and a 4. So you'll always be picking up an 8 first. Because when we turn and go the other direction, it'll line up so that your crystal sits on top of the 8 if you do it that way. So here's a size 8 seed bead. Here's a 4mm crystal. If sometimes I pull here and I can't get it to go down. Something else you can do is you can pick up your crystal. The 8's in place now. And now when I pull, I've got them both tight. Come up through that crystal. I'm pinching it now so that it doesn't move when I do this thread pull here. And then take a look at it, make sure you like it. And then I like to flip it. I flip my work. An 8, a 4mm crystal, and down through that bead, the next bead. Still having to help those 8s sit flat. After a few rows, for reasons I cannot quite figure out, I don't have to help it as much. I mean, once I get going, it's just these first couple of rows, I'm really putting a lot of effort into straightening them out. Coming up to the next one. So if you're making these as a gift for someone, you can tell them, I put hours of work into that for you. They'll be like, wow. So there's that row. And I'll do a couple more and then we can figure out, if you guys want to tell me if you'd like to see this again, I can start it again. I could keep going, or I could go to the sample and show you adding thread right away. So lots of options. I think we're doing great for time. So.
Danielle, my recommendation is to do another row.
Okay.
And then act as though you've run out of thread and show that part for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, I have a sample here where I did run out. And so I'm ready to show you guys adding some more there. Okay. And so yeah, this is all you do now for as many rows as you'd like for your length. You would just keep building it. And I think what I did here was I kept going and I did measure. I did take a tape measure and measure how big the bib is. And at the 9 rows that the pattern calls out, we're looking at 3/4 of an inch. So just knowing that whatever you build here, you'll need to 3/4 of an inch at the end of that. And then the clasp, if you're using a lobster claw and a jump ring, they're going to give you another 1/2 inch or so. So go ahead and, you know, stitch out a length here that works for that dimension for you, whatever that number may be. It's going to be, let's see, about the 0.75 and the 1/2 inch. So about 1 1/4 inch. Keep going until you're within 1 1/4 inch of your desired clasped length. Okay, and so I'm going to switch now. I'm going to switch gears over to, let's see, let me scoop these up really quick. Earlier, I was working on this beautiful one. And this one had, it started with size 8 OC beads in that barley ivory color. I think it's one of my favorite colors. It's got to be. It's up there, and one of my favorite seed bead colors of all time. Anything travertine gets me, but that one's really pretty. And it's versatile, and it kind of looks like sand, I think. And then for the beads that I used with it, they're for the strand wall, and they're just black 4mm Rondel crystals. And what you'll need, so if you want to make one that's going to be the length this one is when I finish it, you'll need 2 of these cards. 2 of these cards, so 4 strands, and just a tube of these. And what you're seeing here is 2 cards total. And this is what I have left from those 2 cards, and I'm going to use those now to finish it. So 2 whole cards, you'll get this bracelet length. Okay, and so I have run out of thread here. It's really short. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in some more. And the cool thing about this stitch is that it is really easy to weave in thread, and it doesn't require as much weaving in. There's something about these herringbone turns that locks those threads into place really nicely. So again, I've got these flat nose, square nose pliers here. I'm just flattening the end there. And then grab another needle. Here we go. And get that threaded. And I don't know how much I need exactly. I think I definitely don't need a full length because I'm almost to the end here. I'm gonna go with maybe like 1 arm. And I'm totally guessing that, but I can always add thread again if I need to. Okay. And so right now the thread's exiting here. It's on this side. And with herringbone stitch, you know how we go up, down, up, down. So I know I want to bring my thread in somewhere on this side and come over. And it really only takes 1 row because we're going to do a little turn. So one of these rows over here is fine. 3 or the second one from the top. I'm going through the 3rd row from the top. I just came in through that size 8 bead. And I'm just going to follow the thread path through. And that same trick applies here that it does to so many of our designs, that once the tail stops moving, you know you've got it. So here's our tail. And I'm going to pull on it and it's moving. And come up through the next bead here. It's already getting tighter. So all I'm doing here is just following the thread path, just like we did when we stitched the original row. I have a keyboard tray that my my thread always catches on. Okay, and so now I'm down through a crystal here on this side. But I want to do my turn in the same spot that I did my turn before. So I'm going to go through the crystal and the 8. Through both of those. Stepping up on the side. through the crystal. And I need to keep going through all of them, but it's only gonna let me go through one at a time, I think. I might be able to get through the crystal here. I don't want to force it because I had a really nice tension before, so I'm going to just gently go through it. There we go. Okay, so now here's my old thread. And here's my new thread. They're in the same spot. And if I pull on my new thread, we're watching this guy over here to see if he moves. Not going anywhere. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that. And just pushing down with the scissors and pulling up with the thread. And then I'm going to leave this alone for now, because what I want to do is I want to weave it up into my new rows that I'm going to create so that I'm not putting a lot of bulk in one spot. So just for now, and it's going to be kind of annoying, it's just hanging out here. I'm going to push it aside and then just start making another row. I need 3 more rows here, 3 or 4. Earlier we were saying this looked like a honeybee, kind of. Got bees on the brain because yesterday was World Bee Day. So there's the 8 in the crystal. It's that same stitch that we did earlier with pick up an 8, pick up a crystal, and down through the next 8. Still helping them a little bit. There we go. I'll do 1 more row and then we'll bring that tail thread up, or the old, I should say the old working thread. And I need to flip it. Still helping those 8 sit sideways or flush, I guess, with the, they should be flush on top of the crystal that's below them. Oops, my crystal didn't make it. Thought I got one there. Yeah, and it's just, it's a meditative stitch. You don't have to count or really think too much about, you know, like a pattern or anything. It's a little hard to see that one. There we go. And what I did there, I'll show you on the next one. When I was having trouble getting through, which means I did great tension on that one. If you're having trouble coming up through your crystals, go ahead and bend your piece just a little bit. I mean, not a lot, just bend it a little bit. And that will help you find the hole so you can get in there. All right. And I've got these 3 left, so why not use those? I got to use those, right? So we'll flip that. And then just there's 1 more here. All right, last row of crystal, but I still have this old working thread to deal with. So just really fast, I'm going to bring it up into that new row that we made above it. I'm going to weave around. I do the same weave-in process for almost every type of stitch. This is the one that requires the least amount of work, I think. So now through a crystal, and My last step up was through one of the 8s, so I'm going to go down through that 8. And then turn, step up through the crystal. And just go through one more. I'll probably just trim it. Right there is as good a spot as any. Scissors. I'll put them somewhere. No way. Oh, you guys, I put them on my light. I have this light right here and it just blended right in with the light. Okay, we're good. Okay, I'm gonna push down with the scissors, pull up with a thread. Not putting the scissors on the light this time. Okay, and so it's crystal section done. And just in case it's helpful to anybody what the measurement looks like for 4 of these, which is exactly what you see here. That ended up being 4.5 inches, right around 4.5. All right, and so now I'm just going to finish it. And so we just need to build regular rows on top with the size 8 seed beads, and that goes really fast. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through that. 2 seed beads on the needle. We're exiting from the crystal. I'm just going to go down through the 8. And there's 2 more. And it's that same stitch, and then through the crystal here, 2 more 8s. And step up. And there we go. I'm going to flip it. Oops, there we go. And so these first 2 rows are going to look, they're going to look a little spread out from each other, but every row on top of them is going to fix that. So don't worry too much about this gap right now. It'll automatically just go and tighten up. There's 2. And there's the center of that one. This one is going to be really pretty. I'm excited about this color. There's our 3. And I didn't really do an exhaustive search of the strand wall for possibilities, but I feel like there's so many 4mm beads that you could find and try. But I also really just like to do this with the 6/0 seed bead. And just the look of it is just so intricate. Looks like a basket. I can't wait to see what everybody makes. You guys will come up with something amazing as usual. I love after class just seeing all of the incredible posts that you guys do. And how many? 1, 2, 3. I've got 5. I just need 4 more. That'll go really fast. It feels like it's taking longer than it probably is, but usually if I'm working by myself, I have music on. And I don't know about you guys, but when I have music on, time goes really fast for me. And I do a lot more stuff that is kind of boring. Like, for example, like a crochet piece where you're just doing that same thing over and over again. And you don't really have to think about it. Your hands are busy. And I just saw like a podcast or music and just keep going. It's better than a nap. And it can also give someone a nap as well. So speaking from experience, I used to do that to get my boys to go to bed. I'd sit there and crochet in their room That made them fall right to sleep. And let's see, so I got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 2 more. And what I'm going to do with this last row is it's going to be stitched as normal. Then we're going to want to put on our first wire guardian. And in the process of doing that, we'll join the last row because I'll explain when I get to this next part. But what you see is these 2 aren't joined. So these top ones aren't joined. Now down here they are because we ladder stitched, right? But here at the top, you've got a space here. We're going to fix that when we put our wire guardian on. So don't worry about it just yet. There we go, last row, stepping up. Okay, so I'm going to get those. Those are over here. And the handout has the, the way to find those, the part number. And I need to weave to the center. So this is a 3-column design. So it has a natural center point for my wire guardian. So we can get those to fit right where we want them, right in the center. If you were doing another kind of design with a different number of columns, you could still make that work. For example, if it was 4-column, you would just want to stitch your wire guardian. Get it to hold. You'd want to stitch it like that if you were doing a 4-column design, just for example. But luckily for us, we just get to go through our center column here. It's just a little bit easier. So I need to get there. So I'm going to just weave down. I just went through the 1 bead. And I come up to the next one. And I used some light tension there. I didn't go crazy pulling it. And come up through one side. And then coming down through the other side of the wire guardian. And then to get it to stay in the well is this, this little top part here. To get your thread to stay in there, if you pinch it between your finger and thumb while you're pulling, it'll stay in there. And then just come right back down. And then go through the next bead in that column. And make sure I'm in the center here. So it should stick just right there. Let me see if I can make the camera. I'm going to experiment with it if it'll let me. You know what? I'm not able to change it to make it zoom. Usually, you know how when you're photographing or you're like doing a video with your phone, you can make it zoom in. So I'm just going to hold it up, but that's what I did.
You can see it really well, Danielle. It's great.
You can see it? Oh, good. I'm so glad. Because I'm looking up at my monitor here and when it's down here, I felt like that. It's a little too far. But so yeah, so now we've got one pass through that. And I'd feel better if there was at least another pass. You could probably get 3 through it. So I'm going to come up to the next one. And down through here. And so I can't do a step up, right? Because I don't have a bead above me to do my step up. So there's a couple of things you can do. You can just stitch down and do your turn here over the last one. Or you can pick up the thread bridge under it and use that to turn. But I'm going to do this way because I think this is the way that is easiest. And do I have a tangle or not? No, I just kind of folded over it weird there. There we go. All right, so I want to overlay my last step up. So I'm going to go down one more bead. And I probably on the, on the sample, I probably didn't even worry about where the step up was because it blends in so well. But on this one, I'm gonna pay attention. And there we go. So that's just sitting on the side there. And now I can go back over. And if anyone's having a problem with their wire guardian sinking, which what I mean is if it's sinking into your beads. Mine seems okay because I think the slant of my beads is making it sit properly, but I have heard and I have had it happen to me where my wire guarding just falls into that size 8. If that is happening to you, before you put the wire guarding on, add a size 10 or size 11 seed bead, go through the Guardian, and then add another size 10 or size 11, and then come down through your 8. And that will stop it from sinking for you. And you could also widen it too. If you just take the wire Guardian and use a chain nose pliers to widen it, that might also stop it from sinking. All right, so there's 2 reinforces. Just do one more. I really like this bracelet, so I'm gonna do all the bells and whistles. And if you don't want to put multiple, you know how you can see a little bit of thickness, you can just go down one. So now I'm working in row 2. And I'm going to come up through all those beads. And I'm going to go through the Guardian one more time. It's going to be really tight. And again, this is optional. I do think 2 is fine, but I just wanted to show that you can do it 3 times if you want to. Here we go. I'm going to go down one more bead to match what I did on the other side. And there we go. Now all I got to do is weave in, and we are done with that side. And so from here to weave in, since you've got a lot of thicknesses going around up here, I'm going to travel down just a little bit to do my weave in. So I'm going to go a little bit down. I might go all the way down to, say, like my 3rd row here. And doing my turn in the same spot where I've got one. And there we go. I'm just going to go through this row. I'm going to step up at the end and then just trim it. And there you go. That's good. So actually, I'm going to go through a couple more, maybe 1 or 2 more to really lock it in there. I think that's good. Same trick as before, put the scissors pushing down, pulling up. There it is.
Danielle, I think it's great that you've shown how to put the wire Guardian on. Would you remind some of the new people how do you go from here to actually having a clasp?
Yeah. So you'll just need some chain nose pliers. I like to use the square ones, which are the ones that I had before for flattening. I like to use these with a pair of bent nose. And those are, I have a little set of them here. So the findings pack have 3 sizes. I'm using the middle size. And so to open a jump ring, let me make sure I'm on camera here. So I've picked it up. I found the seam. The seam on a jump ring, it can be hard to see, but mine's at the top there, and I'm just kind of staying right next to it. And then I'm going to take these bent nose pliers. Let's see if you guys can see that. And then just laterally opening it. So a motion that's like this.
We can see that well.
It's interesting. It focuses if I put my hand, but not if I just hold it. I'm learning. And so I'm just going to put that through the wire Guardian. And I'm going to do that same thing. I'm going to get the bent nose pliers and I'm going to laterally close that to connect. And there's, this is work hardening. We talked a little bit about that in the wire classes. But you heard that little click. that means that it's putting pressure on itself. The wire's doing that, and I'm gonna just check and see if it's flush here. If it's not flush here, a little trick you can do is very gently do this, but you can flatten that down. So there's one side. And if you wanted to put the lobster claw on, I don't have this side finished, but what I do have over here, I'm gonna just quickly pull the one off of, actually I'll do it on this one. Well, actually on this one, it looks like I added, I think I was trying to achieve some extra length. So I'll just go ahead and do that. Oh, actually, no, it's got a built-in jump ring. So I think I just used something from my stash there. And on this one, I put a charm. Last week's class that we did, we had a really cool wire working session, and we made these little, I guess, kind of pendants with wrapped loops. So that's what that is. If you like that and you want to see that class, just go find that one. It's already, I believe it's already on the YouTube. But I do want to show just getting that lobster claw on there really quick. So it's the same thing we just did. Finding that seam and opening it up lateral motion. And then just hook on that lobster claw first and then do that same thing we did before. And I've got an extra jump ring on there, but I might put a charm on it, or I'm not sure yet. I think I want to put a little bee charm. That'll be cute. So let's see, we were at 352. So I was thinking I could show a couple variations if we have a few minutes. So I have done a couple other ideas. I know I kind of flashed this one earlier, but what this one was, same crystals we used in this starter sample, same seed beads. Those are the size 8s. But then I pulled in that lemon yellow, that really pretty lemon yellow. I think it's called Citron actually, in size 6. And you could play with that and alternate it. And I just made little spaces in between. This was a way to work with less beads. So if you didn't have like all the crystals you needed to finish a full strand like that, as cool as that is, this is still really awesome too. That looks really neat on. So there's one idea. And another idea is work it in a single column. So with this one, all I did was I took this color, and that's what you see here. And then I grabbed these from the strand wall and that lavender. And I got this beautiful little bracelet. And this took me, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes or so, maybe less. That's so cute. It's a little wonky. I think my tension was off here, but it just another thought that you guys can play with. And see, with the rest of our time, I could, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Danielle, I just wanted to ask the original sample for the class. Would you just put that on your wrist? People would love one last look at it.
Yeah, and I've been wearing this one. It's in my style realm completely. I love it. And from the back, it's really cute. And you don't have to do the charm, but you can. Yeah, I really love it. I might not be mailing that one to John Bead. I mean, I know you should, but just stay here on my wrist. Should I show the June? I know, well, let me show next week first. That would make sense, right? Next week is the, we're gonna try to do a lot in one class. So, but the main theme is to show using this design board to help you with getting bracelet sizing right. And I know I've joked about it before, but bracelet sizing is not something that comes naturally to me. It's something I have to think about and work about every time. And so I thought I'd be brave and do a class on it, since I'm probably not alone in that. And then just to make it have a little more interesting content, I'm going to show how to center a focal on a design that has multiple wraps. And so you can use the design board for that too. And then it has a really fun closure, play with some suede and a button. It is on beading wire. And it has seed beads that go in between each one that make it look like cute little knots. And they also make it really flowy. And so, yeah, that's next week's class. It's going to be really mellow and fun. We're just going to string and talk about colors and some jokes about getting the bracelet sizes wrong. And so there's that. And then the next, I'm going to just throw all the June classes out. I'm going to start with this one. It's not the first one, but it is in theme with what we did tonight. It's herringbone stitch, but round in a circle. A lot of possibility here. You can do a lot of really cool things with this. So I thought we'd spend some time playing with that concept. So that's one of the classes. Another one is a crochet class. So really fun beaded crochet. This is a multi-layer necklace. And all I did to make it multi-layer was put the little clasp on it and then make it hang in 2 different lengths. So we'll have a lot of fun with that. And I'll spend a lot of time explaining crochet. I might use a bigger cord and use some like pony beads or something like what I called the kid beads, you know, just at first to demonstrate. But we'll get there. We'll get there with this. So that's one of them. And then Bugle Chain. Bugle Chain is so cool. And we'll spend some time talking about Bugle Chain. And I'm hoping by the time this class rolls around, I'll have a fringe sample to show you, because you can fringe this like with a whole row. And it's time consuming, but very, very gorgeous. So we'll go over that. And then last but not least, we're going to do a really cool super duo cuff. And this one is, it's sort of, I would call it herringbone with super duos. This is fast and very, very versatile. Great if you're selling your work, because you can make lots of them, and there's some wow factor on the bar for these. So yeah, definitely June is going to be really fun. And that's all I've got for tonight. Lots of stuff.
Exciting schedule.
We have a lot of stuff coming up. So I'm excited for all of those classes. Those are going to be really fun. And I'm excited to see you guys next week. And I want to wish you a great Friday and happy weekend. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again next week on Friday. Bye.